what is the real reason CM Punk looks to be taking time off? Hey, if we only had a third hour, maybe we would have had time to find out. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, DAD. Welcome to the Monday Night Raw Review podcast on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. If you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button. Give us a subscribe. Leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode. Send in your chat gables to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them over $5 before the end of the show. And the biggest way you can support the channel today is go over to Geology and make your face nice and moist.
Geology is a award-winning skincare brand. They've actually just recently won another award.
You did this!
It's all on you!
You did this!
You deserve it! And you can get 70% off your trial set by using our link in the video description down below. We'll have more on that after the Ultrachats.
We've been using Geology for years.
Oh, that's why our skin looks so much better now.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't got bags under my eyes, despite the fact that I've got a quite whingy toddler.
Mine is dry skin.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bit of here, bit of here. It's
Yeah.
not cocaine. It's dry skin. I know we're in the media biz, but that's not how we roll.
It's not how we roll. It's a different era now.
Yeah.
We don't back in the old days of YouTube, people used to have guns in their bags, but not anymore.
No, we're clean-cut WrestleTalk.
Now we just play video games.
Right, so the opening talking point of this episode is the opening segment of Raw we've chosen.
One of the opening segments of Raw, because this show had everyone arrive, then it had Sexy Red open the show, then it had CM Punk open the show, then it had a Seth Rollins in-ring promo.
Which was then interrupted by Jey Uso for the first
for
match.
a match, yes.
Which then had a Bron Breakker interruption at the end. Na-na-na-na-na-na, chain interruption. Should have done that in the news.
Well, you can save it for next week, because they'll do the same thing next week, yeah.
So CM Punk opens the episode, well, apart from all the little bits of admin they now do, which I enjoy.
The Sexy Red one was like...
That was a bit excessive.
Yeah. Because she didn't do anything. It was just like, St. Louis' own Sexy Red. And she went, woohoo! And then the intro started, and then CM Punk came. I was like, is Sexy Red gone?
Is Punk having a match with Sexy Red next? They managed to cut off her woo.
Yeah.
Like she just went, woo! No,
well,
not gonna we're on 2 hours
2 hours now. If this is a 3-hour show, you'd get the full woo here.
But Punk comes out, he walks out, crucially, only to the top of the entrance, and he struggles to get there.
I love this.
Because he says, look, I'm not cleared to come out to the ring. Yeah. I can barely make it out to this point. He's limping. He has an arm cast on. He's got it was great console, the arm cast. He had like little plasters on his... He had plasters on his face.
I think that's the finest joke you've done in the 7 years we've been doing this show.
Thanks, man. And he said, look, I'm in no condition to be here. And even though I won on Saturday's Bad Blood, I don't feel like a winner. Such an excellent job of getting over the stipulation.
I thought Joe Tessitore did a great job of this. He talked about how like CM Punk didn't just win at Bad Blood. He survived Hell in a Cell. And we've been talking about this, like, till the cows come home, that they did such a good job of rehabbing the image of Hell in a Cell. And man, the match they had on Saturday was, part and parcel of that. It was so good. And then the post-match thing, I love that Punk could barely walk out of the ring afterwards, collapsed and had to bring out the oxygen tanks and things like that. And then to sell it again on Raw, limping out and being like, I said I didn't want to do that match ever again, but I had to go there. And now I need to realize what that has meant for me.
Yeah, because then he starts to somewhat tease, maybe I've got to retire. And I did, when he did say that, I thought, well, I don't fully buy into that because you've only had one feud. You've had 3 singles matches since you came back. Like, you have done astoundingly little in your first year back in WWE. Mm-hmm. But it's all been good.
It has been very good. Yeah, I think for the most part it's been good. I think there's a bit of a lull in that Drew feud when it did become about the beads. Not the bees. The beads.
And the game show.
But that's part and parcel of the game show bits. That was really about the beads. And I think that was kind of like the dip of it. But I think in the final third. Much like the Gunther Sami Zayn match. Like, once they got all the ad breaks out of the way, it was a terrific feud.
It's better to finish strong than be Joker too. So he also, like, he sort of teased that at the start, and then he says he wants to thank 3 groups of people: the diehard fans, yeah boy, that's me, his colleagues.
Well, on those diehard fans, he said, not only did you wait for 7 years for me to return, you then waited another 3 years for me to come home. Where, you know, one of those few times where he sort of references that, yeah, I did go back, I was just somewhere else.
Yeah. And that his colleagues was the second group, and finally the haters, because he turned their hate into cash. Then he said, I'm going to go home now. Haven't seen my wife in 5 weeks, which he set up in the Go Home promo last week. Said, like, he has not become the sort of person he wants his wife to see him. So he's been living in a hotel for 4 weeks. It was such a great little detail to this. Got a lot of flowers to buy. He'll like to say he'd see us soon, but I don't know. Yeah,
so this is, I am taking some time off. Sell the brutality of Hell in a Cell, but not just sort of like the physical brutality, but the mental brutality of it as well. You know, I was talking about this in the lead up to Hell in a Cell. I was like, I'd like to see Drew just take time off after this. You know, have Drew off TV until the Royal Rumble. Now that Punk's also gone, I'm like, oh, but we kind of need a bit of star power. Actually, maybe Drew should come back. But I think they should take some time away to sell the brutality. I like the fact that neither Bronson Reed or Braun Strowman were on this show because they need to sell the brutality of the match last week.
Yeah, it's something we've always been asking for WWE for decades. Sell the effects of matches, make them mean something. And this episode of Raw was actually a double taping because next week's Raw is going to be pre-taped. It was filmed after the last Monday night's episode.
It's because of the European tour.
Yeah, they're on tour over here. And from what I read, there's no Drew on that show either.
No,
so Drew is at least missing 2 weeks, which I think is a good move.
Also, no Bronson Reed either. So he'll be taking 2 weeks off after, you know, the last Monster Standing to sell the effects of the stomp by Mr. Rollins.
So initially, when he said this stuff, I was like, oh God, I don't really care about I don't know if I can wrestle anymore storyline for Punk, because I feel like he's only just come back still. He's only had one feud. He was out injured for most of it. And already he's saying, I might have to retire, guys. No, that didn't gel with me. But it's obviously a work because then Seth Rollins makes his entrance, shoulder bumps him on the way out. Punk looks pissed. And Seth says, let me be the first to wish you a speedy recovery because the quicker you recover, the sooner I can retire your ass.
Seth Rollins, who came out dressed as Sex Club Shield.
Yeah. Could have reset his character in that timeout.
Oh, no, but this is a character that's over. People like this.
I hate it.
I know, bud. And I felt like, you know, I feared for your comment safety when you said in an edited review that you do not like this character because people really like this character.
I have no idea why. It's not a character. It's annoying costume choices. And what did Sullivan say? 3 notes?
Yeah. It's 3 notes of a song. Yeah. And the noise of that is piped within the song, so it sounds like it is more over than it actually is, even though it is quite over. But yeah, I think that's your WrestleMania match, is Punk and Rollins.
Yeah, because it certainly won't be your crown jewel match, because this is the speculated real reason why Punk is taking this time off. It's come at a great storyline moment because he can sell the effects of Hell in a Cell. But yes, Punk has been very vocally critical of WWE's business relationship with Saudi Arabia, even back when he was kind of with Fox in 2019 and the WWE Backstage show. And now this is the first tension point of Punk being an active wrestler, not injured in WWE, and the next PLE is Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia.
Because the last Saudi show that Punk was a part of WWE for, he was injured. So it's like, oh, well, he's not going to be on that show. But there had been that question of what is going to happen when it comes to CM Punk in Saudi Arabia, because he quite famously once told The Miz on social media to go suck a blood money covered D. Was that what it was?
Dick, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I think you can say dick.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a body. Yeah, go suck I suppose because you're saying it with all.
It's all the other words in
That's
combination.
it. I think if you just say dick on its own,
Yeah.
it's like you say Richard.
Yeah.
But if you use it in the full context of the sentence he said, it sounds very graphic.
It's quite strong.
It was very strong. So I think that this is very much a case of when he said, "Oh, I'm not going to be here for a while," I was like, "Well, a Saudi show is coming up soon, so I guess that makes sense." I think it does come quite nice time because now he can miss the Saudi show, and possibly even miss Survivor Series because I don't think he's needed for Survivor Series either. And then maybe he can be back for the Saturday night's main event and start his storyline going into the Royal Rumble, and then build his Rumble program with Rollins, whether that just be a singles match or whether that be for the World Heavyweight Championship.
I do hope when Punk does come back, he can have more than one feud. I would like to see just a couple of months of Punk having 2 to 3 matches a month on TV against the likes of, here is a match of him versus Kofi Kingston for the throwback feels, or him beating Finn Balor. That feels like a TV thing that could happen.
Yeah, because he hasn't even done TV matches.
Yeah, while he's feuding with an overarching villain of Seth Rollins. And Seth screws him over at points, I don't know.
Yeah, I like that.
Because it's all been in the Punk Drew verse.
Yes.
Drew's done feuds with other people, but Punk screwed him over there. But yes, I think we're going to be in the pattern that we used to be in with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and everyone. Like, the Saudi show's coming up. They mysteriously fade away for a month.
Yeah, but I think you're right that it's come at a good story beat because I think this is a great way to sell the Hell in a Cell stipulation.
Shall we see what everyone has to say about this in the comments? Chat Gables, send them in to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5. Mike says, I wasn't excited for a 2-hour Raw because I knew exactly what was going to be hurt the most. The women's division. It was already struggling for proper time and piling your entire mid-card into one 7-minute match, but to spotlight on how little they care.
I think it is amazing. So this was our first 2-hour Raw in over a decade. It was like 2013 was when they started doing it. And I remember when they started doing it in 2013, it was like, I don't think this is a good move. And ultimately, long-term, it wasn't viewership-wise, but it was monetarily. So when they announced they're going back to 2-hour Raw, I did have this thing of like, for me as a fan, I was like, great, 2-hour Raw. Oh, it's so much more manageable. And at the end of the show, I was like, that is so much better. That's so much more manageable to watch than 3 hours. But I also in the back of my mind was like, yeah, but you've conditioned your audience for 10 years to think that 3 hours is the answer. Back when Dynamite was first starting, we used to get Ultrachats in being like, don't you think Dynamite needs to be 3 hours? Because there's too many people on the roster. They need to have 3 hours. And we were like, no, 3 hours is a bad thing. So now we don't have 3-hour Raws. We are now going to start to see the repercussions of 10 years. That's a whole generation of wrestling fans there who have been conditioned to believe this is the best way for a wrestling show to run.
But SmackDown's 2 hours.
Yeah, and people think that it's too short.
NXT's 2 hours.
And people think it's too short.
I feel like this felt too short because Raw has a roster that's built for 3 hours. Like they get more wrestlers in the draft, for instance. So there's more names to fit in.
I don't know if that's the case anymore. It might still be. I can't remember now.
But it's like, I don't feel like this was a 2-hour show. I feel like this was a 2.5 hour, 2 hour, 40-minute show that they crammed into 2 hours.
I don't know if I agree with that because there was only 4 matches.
Yeah, but none of them got time.
Yeah, because you've got to have the ad breaks in there.
Yes.
It was less, there was a fine 2-hour show in here, but a good hour of that is ad breaks. So it makes everything feel like it is. There is a stretch of this show that is poorly paced because they have to try and cram so much stuff into either side of the ad breaks. And I just have the entrances be the ad breaks. Like, I think it is. There's no actual reason for me as a viewer to watch the entrances, then get 1 minute of wrestling, then 3 minutes of ad break, then 3 minutes of wrestling. Whereas a much better version of that is I just get 7 minutes of a wrestling match and I don't see entrances.
I think you just got to pull back on the amount of things you're featuring because I would hate to lose entrances as part of the pomp and circumstance of stuff. But I do want to see more wrestling.
Yeah, maybe there is a happy medium within there.
Lucha Taiwan says, Hey, I probably, like many others, enjoyed listening to the weekly SmackDown review, but why has it been taken off air since August 20th? And are there any plans to bring it back once SmackDown becomes a 3-hour show? Well, I don't know where you've been getting the ones since August 20th. We stopped doing the SmackDown review back in January.
I think they mean the podcast, because we did have the Smack Collision podcast.
Oh, yes. So it's unfortunately it just wasn't working out financially for us. We were putting both SmackDown and Collision in one Monday show, but people already sort of people had passed SmackDown by that point, we found, and Collision has just become a bit of a nothing happening event.
Yeah, and you've written here, probably like many others. Well, unfortunately, there weren't many others watching the show. Like, that's basically the reason why we had to stop doing. We had to stop doing it on a Saturday because, well, no one watched it when it was on a Saturday, and there were no like follow-up views to it afterwards. So we started on a Monday, and even less people watched it then. So it's like, and we've seen, it's not just us. Other channels, when they do SmackDown coverage, it just doesn't draw as much. SmackDown is just a less interesting show, I guess, in terms of like people to talk about it.
I would say its highs are higher though. Like when we know there's a big thing happening, like it's the first USA thing, we do try to do a review video.
Or like during the WrestleMania build when The Rock was on SmackDown pretty much every week.
Yeah, but really we've also got to juggle a work-life balance for everyone here, and we can't do Saturdays ever like consistently. So the only thing that would really bring it back sustainably for us is if it was moved to another day of the week, which why won't USA do? It's like, what do you want, this Friday thing that gets X amount of viewers? Put it on a Thursday.
It's a much better time on a Thursday.
Much better time.
Space Viking here also says, Finn Balor was the canon event that made everything possible. Look at the current wrestling landscape. If you go down that line, it all starts with Bullet Club. Well, Finn Balor fans plus Jay White fans equal disappointment.
Is that were they doing the sort of fist?
I guess so, yeah.
The Outrunners thing.
That's building off what Sat was saying on the Bad Blood review when he was showing, like, give some credit to Finn Balor. Without him, a lot of the wrestling landscape doesn't look the way it does now.
And finally for now, Roach Senpai says, something I really hate with WWE is you have a couple of champions on a pay-per-view who have no matches and are only used to host the show and interviews. I find that it undermines the champion and the title itself. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't think any pay-per-view needs a host. Like, what did Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill add to Bad Blood as the hosts?
You put some respect on Naomi's name.
Oh, sorry.
She was there too.
Plus Naomi.
They got to be in a box later.
You could have done that without them being the hosts. What did Hulk Hogan add to WrestleMania, whichever one it was, when he was the host of the show?
Moral complexity.
He come out dressed as a pirate. So anyway, that is it for the Ultrachats at the moment. Please do continue to get them in. WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them before the end of the show. And a big thank you to this episode's sponsor, Geology. So Geology is a fabulous skincare product, and it is a great way for you to manage your skincare routine. I am very bad at my skincare routine. Or rather, I should say, I was bad at my skincare routine until Geology started sponsoring us a number of years ago. And they kind of just, they've changed the way that I do things now. So the way that this works, that's an absolute mess right there. Don't take that off camera. Good Lord. So the way that it works is that you take a quiz online, and the quiz at the end of it takes about sort of 30 seconds or so, tells you the skincare routine that you need, and they can then tailor that to you. It is an award-winning brand. It has got multiple thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of 5-star reviews online as well. It gives you a nice little day and night routine, a little card to explain what you need to do with that, which is good because I'm quite bad at knowing what to do with skincare routine. And it makes you just look better. From the moment that I started using Geology, I did have friends say to me, are you doing something because you look great?
You genuinely did. You didn't look as dry anymore.
I didn't look as tired, which is what I really felt like I often look like. When I watch back some videos, I'm like, man, I just look tired. Like, watch those like WrestleMania videos that we do, like when it's WrestleMania season. And I'm just looking at myself being like, you look tired. There's the start of the new Monday Night War Last Chance thing we're doing that I filmed on the aftermath of All In Week. And I look so tired. But I then started to look really good again. because I started to improve my skincare regime. Geology. So click the link in the video description down below, take the survey, and you can get 70% off your skincare trial.
70% off. What an offer. Right, so this episode of Raw was in St. Louis, Canada, and we had a big rundown of all the matches. Gunther versus Sami, Jey Uso versus Xavier Woods, Pete Dunne versus Sheamus. It was like...
And the rest.
So, like, yeah, they set a level there of, wow, these are 3 big matches that are definitely going to get time. We got the sexy red bit, then we got the CM Punk bit. Seth Rollins, checks in with his shoulder as he walks out and does the retirement line. But then he went into previous Seth mode. He's, to me, very annoying. I genuinely want to skip his segments when he starts talking. I find him totally unlikable. I have no idea how he can be considered a babyface with this persona.
Yeah, I think you've struggled with Rollins since 2019. Actually, you do him on the Monday Night Messiah.
I like the Monday Night Messiah
yeah, that's
gimmick.
true, yeah.
I like serious Rollins.
Yeah, I prefer serious Rollins than Seth Rollins.
I just don't get it.
But
it really annoys me.
I did appreciate, this new era of WWE where characters progress, but they also remember. And he even referenced the fact that, hey, a lot has changed while I was gone, including Cody Rhodes tagging with Roman Reigns. What's that all about? And it was because at WrestleMania, he was trying to help Cody Rhodes take on the bloodline. Now here's Cody Rhodes helping out those people that Seth Rollins kind of sacrificed a lot of himself. Effectively, you could argue, sacrificed his world title run because he was trying to help Cody.
Yeah, it's a really nice thing to reference here, especially because that's on the other show as well. It's not like Seth has to reference that as a Raw character, but it does mean a lot to his overall arc. Mm-hmm. And it lets him also reference and whatever's going on with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. Oh, I'm not supposed to talk about that, because that's really interesting. Owens has turned on Cody because he doesn't like how Cody has sided with Roman and Jimmy, and Seth's in that exact same spot.
Yeah, and I think that idea of I'm not allowed to talk about that is because in kayfabe, it is being investigated internally. So it's can't have any talent talk about this on air.
Yeah. They did a really good job throughout the episode.
Can you tell viewers that Ollie Davis recorded Patreon shoutouts for the WrestleTalk news prior to us doing this?
Ollie Davis didn't record anything. Turbo Jack.
You facilitated Turbo Jack.
I helped
him.
Yeah. So then Seth drops all that stuff, looks down the camera. This is the Seth I want. He sets his sights on Bronson Reed. He challenged him to a match anywhere, anytime, because this time Seth will know his coming.
Mm-hmm. I like this. By the end, I did like this, and it's good to continue this Bronson Reed feud, and I'm looking forward to their match.
Then Jey Uso interrupted Seth. They had a sort of passing of the ships in the night moment as well, so maybe an Intercontinental title thing down the line.
Maybe, yeah.
And we got Jey Uso versus Xavier Woods. Xavier comes down with Kofi Kingston. They get the big 8K camera thing. Samantha Irvine's doing the ring intros because this is Jey's first Intercontinental Championship defense. Wade Barrett has this great line about how there's this unwritten rule in the locker room where you're not really a champion until you've defended that title at least once, not just when you've won it. And it felt big time. And Woods starts off, he's got a bit more of a vicious edge. Oh, yes, that fits with the character. Ad break. Comes back. Woods gets hit by a super kick splash, and Jey wins.
Yeah, this was a 7-minute match that we saw probably less than half of, because the majority of it was within the ad break. And it means that you can't really get invested in the actual match itself. Basically, here's what 2-hour Raw is in the new WWE era. The wrestling doesn't matter. It is just... So, I mean that just on the undercard. I think all the main events probably will do because they'll be given time. So the main events will have a bit more time so they can do stuff either side of the 2 ad breaks that they get. But the undercard will just be short matches. Most of it's in the ad break. It's all about the post-match. And it's all about the entrances. So you get to see the stars and the post-match angles that come after it.
I really, really wish something else was dropped from this show, or something was moved to next week. So this could have had at least 5 more minutes. I think this is a real mistake. I think Woods and the New Day storyline is one of the best things on Raw this year. And
you got that in the post-match.
But I needed it in the ring. I think Woods...
The wrestling doesn't matter.
This is going to be a problem then, because I think a large part, and I don't think this is controversial to say, a large part of how wrestling stories are told is in the wrestling matches.
Yeah, but that's not what fans will tell you. Fans will tell you that wrestling doesn't matter. It's all about the story. You yourself have been the one who's been preaching this. Story is more important than the in-ring wrestling.
I have, but not at the total expense of it. I think Woods needs to go in there, have a bit of a credible run, but he self-sabotages, something goes wrong, he can blame it on someone else, and that's how Jey beats him. Because right now, I was really into the New Day storyline, getting more and more every week. This match happens, I'm down. And that's not what weekly TV should be about.
No, and I'm sure that I've actually seen someone in the comments there say, well, there's picture-in-picture. I don't get picture-in-picture. Like when we watch this on Discovery Plus, I don't get picture-in-picture. I just get ad breaks.
And even then, a 7-minute match is not enough. It should, minimum 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So the post-match angle was Jey going to shake Kofi's hand out of respect afterwards, but Woods won't shake Jey's hand. He walks off. Kofi's kind of being like, hey, go back in there and shake his hand. But Bron Breakker from out of nowhere spears Jey. Kofi's a babyface. He's like, we need to go help him. Xavier's annoyed, though, so he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. Bron goes in.
Why are we getting involved in their business?
Bron spears Jey. Kofi tries to get in. Bron spears Kofi. Xavier's trying to get Kofi out the ring, not helping Jey. But Bron does the run around the ring and spears Woods so hard, Woods leaps backwards about 6 feet and hits the barricade.
It was an incredible spear. A proper, super spear.
But usually a spear, you take the person down with you. It's like as soon as Bron's shoulder hit Woods in the gut, Woods bounced back like he was made of flubber.
It was like a pounce. Like Monty.
It was more of a pounce. Then Bron gets back in the ring, gives one more spear to Jey for good measure, and holds up the Intercontinental title that he seemed to have moved on from last week.
I felt so bad for you because last week you were so like, but it's great because I get why they took the title off him because they're moving him away from the IC title. He's turned babyface and we're now starting him in a program with Gunther. And I agreed. And I was like, yeah, that appears to be the direction we got. When Jey won the belt, I was like, well, I hope they move Bron on then because I don't want him to just go back into a feud with Jey over the IC title. If you're going to take the belt off him so soon after putting it on him, that should be you should be doing that for a reason to elevate him up the card. But we've just gone right back to Bron and Jey. So Bron has gone nowhere. And last week's angle was all a ruse. It was to lull Jey into a false sense of security.
I would argue Jey has gone worse than nowhere. He's gone backwards. He was a babyface. They lent into the...
Bron has.
Sorry, what did I say?
You said Jey has gone nowhere.
Bron has gone backwards.
Okay.
Last week, they lent into the woof, woof, woof babyface reactions he's been getting. This was a way to catapult him up the card. Not win the World Heavyweight title, but, get over in a program for it. And I feel like he's gone back. So do you think last week was an intentional ruse?
Well, that's what they said on commentary. I'm telling you that's what commentary said, that last week was a ruse. I thought it was a genuine babyface turn. So maybe we all got worked, brother. Or, as you maybe theorized, it's less that we got worked, brother, and it's more plans change and that don't work for me, brother.
Yeah, Goldberg showed up. I feel like WWE have gone gaga for Gold, and they want to do the Goldberg-Gunther match now, as they should. I think, that could be a fun little thing, providing Goldberg doesn't win.
Look at Gunther win.
It's already set up in the Goldberg Bret Hart referencing bit from last month. I guess I just don't see... Let it play out, of course, but I feel like plans changed here, and Breakker's ascent upwards was like, but now we've got this Goldberg opportunity, so we're just gonna move you back down, Breakker.
And as we can tell, it's not going to happen at this Saudi show because it's Gunther versus Cody. Spoilers for this show's main event. So that's happening at Crown Jewel. And then the report is it's not going to be the Survivor Series match either, which means it's either Rumble or it'll be the next Saudi show. It'd be the one that's at the start of the year. Is it like? Well, sometimes it's not in February anymore, isn't it? They kind of do more towards the start of the summer. So maybe it's the Rumble match. Maybe that is when you do Gunther versus Goldberg.
I think that's a great Rumble title match
because it'll be 4 minutes.
Yeah,
and hopefully Gunther wins.
This will set up Jey versus Kofi next week. By the way, no, it will set up Braun versus Kofi next week. So
can I now just? We can go back over these bits, Pete. In a moment. But this is what I want to talk about when I talk about bad pacing of a show. Because as much as we're in a new regime, as much as this is a new era of WWE, they will always be WWE, both on TV and in business practices, with sponsors and competitors, and in some cases, YouTube channels. And that's the same thing when it comes to their TV productions. Goldberg coming back, it feels like a very old WWE thing to do, but they will always be WWE. This is what then happened. We had a video promo for Rhea Ripley. We had a War Raiders promo. We had an ad break. We had a backstage interview with Bron Breakker. We then had a recap of Crown Jewel Championship announcement. We had a recap of Cody getting attacked at Bad Blood. We had Cody arriving but had technical issues. We then had a Sheamus promo. We then had Sheamus making his entrance. Then we had an ad break. Then we had a Miz segment with Karrion Kross and R-Truth. Then we had the Sheamus versus Pete Dunne match. That is dreadful. That is terrible. There was an episode of Dynamite that did something like that like a couple of weeks back. And I was like, this is rubbish. It's proper rubbish telly.
Yeah, it is too many bits as opposed to anything substantial to get your teeth into. Which is why I felt like it was that, let's book our usual 3-hour show. Let's just do it in 2.
Yeah, so Vince Russo in the TNA 06 era. Every show's a 2 hour. Oh, no, it's not. It's an hour long. Well, I booked 2 hours worth of TV, so you got to do that in the hour.
Triple H is there with these comically tiny glasses, and he doesn't quite see the date. He's like, we go 2 hours in November, surely.
Yeah.
So going back to that Rhea Ripley promo, which started off this run of a smorgasbord backstage segments bit. She said Liv was smart to use Raquel to beat her, but dumb because she got caught, because that guarantees me another title shot. So yeah, I mean, I think they'd always have had another match because of the Raquel thing, but they've built the botched ending to the Bad Blood match to facilitate that.
I think this would have been the same promo, regardless of the finish being botched or not at Bad Blood. Regardless, I was so ready for this feud to be over at Bad Blood, so it continuing on is not something I'm hugely into.
I'm really concerned that Balor and Priest will also continue.
No, that can't. But Priest won. That can't possibly.
Well, that's how you build to the stipulation match.
That's how you get to WrestleMania.
Brom sort of ignored Jackie Redmond about the sudden change of character backstage because, probably hadn't got a reason written for him yet. And then Jackie apologizes to the Test Man. I haven't heard him be called the Test Man.
They kept calling him Tess on commentary as well.
Yeah. Well, maybe because nobody really knows how to pronounce his last name. Tess.
Just Tess.
Tess. Then I thought this was really good. The way they handled the Cody KO stuff was really well done.
Nice.
Wade wanted to talk to the Test Man about it, but Test Man shut him down and was just like, no, look, Triple H has posted a tweet about this. We're dealing with this internally.
Yeah. And this comes off the back of them announcing the Crown Jewel Championship that's happening at Bad Blood. So I think, again, as much as I don't like all of these segments being lumped all in together, at least they are kind of weaved together nicely. So we go from Triple H making announcements to the Cody Rhodes thing and Triple H's tweet about that, which feeds into Cody arriving. So at least there is like a through line to it.
Cody arrived backstage and he spoke about, can't really get into the KO stuff.
That came later.
SmackDown. Oh, he's just shown walking backstage. This is where there's a few technical difficulties, by the way, which feeds into Miz talking to Karrion Kross backstage, and there is a full-on Wyatt 6 graphic now, but it kind of flickers over the camera feed.
So if you're wondering what's next for the Wyatt 6, it's the Miz, because he's just turned on his brother. So he split up a family, so the Wyatts can now feud with The Miz and Karrion Kross.
Aren't the Wyatt Six watching the Judgment Day stuff?
Well, that's a bigger feud. And you got to do, but they're not ready to do the Judgment Day feud yet because
I would say
we're still feuding with Liv and Rhea. So we can't do the Judgment Day yet.
We didn't have to keep feuding between Liv and Rhea.
What else are you going to do?
I booked Alexa Bliss or Sister Abigail coming in and
Abby the Witch
or Auntie Howdy costing Liv the title, and that's how it spins out into.
No, it's we haven't done anything with the White Six since they quite convincingly kept beating American Alpha. No, American Made. So now they get to feud with The Miz.
I get using things for special attractions, but oh man, they've dropped the ball something fierce on White Six.
I think they were always going to be this group in terms of they are not on every week act. And you could see the longer it went. And we thought, actually, the VHS thing was going to be a really great way to kind of keep that interest going. Because you remember, like, the interest that came off that first attack. And then the first VHS tape, Bo Dallas being revealed within. And then they had the in-ring stuff. But we've even seen on our channel, the more we talked about the White Six, the less the interest has been. It didn't last long, unfortunately. So the best thing to do with that then is just to make them special attractions.
But I think you also want to escalate. And no offense, Final Testament, but I feel like that is a step beneath where we were with the American Made feud. At least that had just come out of the Intercontinental title scene. I feel like Wyatt Six's next program, the thing that makes them come back, should have been the Judgment Day or something at the Judgment Day's level.
Yeah.
An escalation of this.
I agree, but there are certain, you can look at American Alpha as a drop ball thing. Look how over Otis was a few months back. Not on TV at all anymore.
R-Truth comes up to Miz. He thinks that Miz made a mistake turning on him, saying, I'm not in the Judgment Day anymore. Miz made a match between them for next week.
Because while we can't do anything with Otis, who is super over, we've got a lot of TV time to dedicate to the Miz and R-Truth, who are not.
Sheamus and Pete Dunne had a fun match, a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match, which initially I thought, it's just a street fight with a shillelagh. But then they actually had loads of beer barrels round the ring and like an old wooden bar.
Yeah.
And they climbed to the top. The craziest spot was they climbed to the top of two barrels stacked on top of each other, which was almost as high as the top turnbuckle on the outside. And Sheamus hits a white noise off of that through a table below.
Oh, it was so much fun. Like, this was really, really fun. It was hugely entertaining. Good old-fashioned Donnybrooks, because they've got such a silly name, I think a lot of people instantly assume it's going to be a very silly match. But everyone they've done has been awesome.
It's like the Viking Rules match.
Yeah, exactly. Like, every one of these they've done, I've been like, that was a great match. Yeah, that was really good. It's just got a silly name. But I thought this was tremendous. I don't think the finish helps Pete Dunne much.
Bloody hell. Just before that, this probably means nothing, but Drew hit a white noise on CM Punk on the steel steps in the Bad Blood Hell in a Cell match. Sheamus had a white noise in a big moment here.
Well, that's because that's his move.
Yeah, I know, but maybe.
I think it is more Drew. That is just part of his repertoire that he also adds in, because that is him building off the character that he has built off his relationship with Sheamus.
I'm just going to drop a few nuggets so I can flesh them out into 3-count picks. Sorry, do you want to talk about the finish?
Well, I would say that the crowd were not super into this match until that white noise spot. And all of a sudden, it felt like they just sort of woke up and they were like, big, this is awesome chants. And then from then on, they were into every single move that these guys did. And I thought the finish was really cool. So Dunne kicks out the Razor's Edge. He then hits Sheamus with the cricket bat. We got a shout out to Ian Botham on commentary, which I never thought I would hear on an episode of Monday Night Raw.
JBL would definitely have done something like that.
Well, JBL would have Googled English cricket player beforehand and gone, Ian Botham, without knowing who he is. At least Wade Barrett knows who he is.
That's not all I Google.
Shout out to the 5 people who remember that bit of JBL lore. But yeah, so then Pete Dunne gets outside and he gets zip ties. and he zip ties Sheamus's hands behind his back. And I was like, oh, buddy, you are getting bro kicked in the face and pinned 1, 2, 3.
Oh, did you call it?
Yeah, it's like
I was like
100%.
It was dumb Ollie again. I was like, oh, I guess Pete Dunne's winning.
Because that is what happened, is that Sheamus fought back, he hit the bro kick out of nowhere, and he pinned Pete Dunne with his hands tied behind his back.
I have this theory that WWE, the Renaissance era, is Phase 1 Marvel. And they are extremely good now at booking genuine baby faces, which has been a huge problem for WWE for 15 years.
I'd say almost 20.
Likeable, badass, smart baby faces.
I'd actually say almost 25 years they've struggled to make good baby faces. Rounding up, because it's probably like Ruthless Aggression is where they struggle.
It is coming at the expense of heels, though. And I get that Pete Dunne's probably likely never going to be the guy we want him to be on the main roster. But this was a hard loss. This was a definitive... I mean, do you want me to... Should I say it?
Uh-oh, you're going to use the B word.
Bit of a burial of old Dunne there. In the finish, a guy beat him with his hat. Literally, it's an expression. I could beat you with my hands tied behind my back.
I think this leads to a rematch. I don't think this is the blow-off to the feud.
Sami Zayn bumps into Cody Rhodes backstage. This was a really good interaction.
Like this a lot.
Because Sami's like, by the way, I'm going to be facing you at Crown Jewel. He isn't. And if you want to talk about it, what he's going to talk about is, Sami's got history with KO and KO turning heel on him. And Cody went, nope, I don't want to get into that. I just thought it was a great way to address it without addressing it. I
really like this backstage. I mean, given their history, going back to what they were doing last year with the Judgment Day, I thought this was really, really good.
I believe they're friends.
Yep.
I believe they actually are talking. Yeah.
You want to talk about like the positives of new era WWE? It's believable characters and believable characters that doing when The Miz is backstage with Karrion Kross, I'm like, okay, you are two actors who are just chatting to each other. Like this is a WWE Raw backstage segment. These two, I'm like, oh no, these are just two genuine people having a conversation.
I'm so sorry for you to do that observation, and then we now have to go into this next segment. Because the Judgment Day arrived backstage in a car, and Raquel's character is now Uber driver.
She's the driver.
She's the driver. She's the security guard.
She's Big Daddy Cool. Because
she wears shades indoors.
Much like Triple H wants to rehash everything from 1997, he's now looking at Big Daddy Cool and the two dudes with attitude and being like, well, she's the new Diesel for Liv Shawn Michaels. Like, let's do 1996.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's 1996 for you. Raquel wouldn't answer Jackie. No one would answer Jackie, to be honest. Poor, she had a rough night of people ignoring her. About whether Gonzalez is now officially in the Judgment Day. And then Liv and Dom are like, should we just go? And they got in the car and drove off.
Yeah, so Jackie even said, the show hasn't even started, because this was earlier in the day. She's like, the show hasn't even started. And they're like, yeah, no, we're going.
Yeah. I get that they're so disrespectful and they do what they want. I think it's quite lame to drive all the way somewhere and then decide, now we're going to go back and then leave.
But they're supposed to be lame. Like, the Judgment Day are a lame group, and really always have been a group of lamos. Like, they've always been this group of outcast lamos, and then two of them got cool, so they had to leave. They had to leave because you're ruining the reputation of the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
So now they can go back to being lamos again.
Adam Pearce is talking to Ava backstage, NXT commissioner. Ethan Page walks in, asks for a match against Punk because Punk screwed him out of the title the previous week on NXT. Ava says she won't help because she's off the clock. He's like, why are you here then? And Sexy Red comes in and goes, whoa, again.
I'm sure it pulled in viewers,
yeah.
which is, or social media numbers, whatever it was they pulled Sexy Red in for.
Then we got the old AEW Dynamite trick.
Well, you say that. I've written my notes here. I don't know if it's just because 5 women came out to Natalia's theme, but this has got real 2008 Divas vibes about it.
Well, I thought Dynamite went through a long, long period of, it's 2:15 Press the women's segment.
Get all the women and their backstage segments in this one here.
And here we had, a 10-person tag. It was a 5-on-5 of the Rubbish Heels of Unholy Union and Pure Fusion Collective versus here's a bunch of baby faces. Yeah. Natalya, Zelina Vega, Lyra Valkyria, Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter. I think we saw more of it than the Woods and Uso match, but only by a couple of frames.
Really?
And Valkyria beat DeVille with not even her finisher.
That was the top rope leg drop while she was standing. Okay. But that's not her finisher. It was like the John Cena leg drop of doom.
Yeah. So the faces won, which just made Pure Fusion Collective even lamer. Well, and then we got a backstage pre-filmed promo about Belair and Cargill having the tag title match against Damage Control next week.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Pure Fusion Collective can't buy a win. Here's what I will say about this episode of Raw. No interference. No distraction finishes. Every match had a clean finish. So thumbs up for me on that sense. And while this did have Divas era 10-woman tag, just get all of the women on the card vibes to it, at least the work rate was better.
Yes, yeah, there is that.
The moves
they can wrestle.
The moves that they did were better moves than what Brie Bella was doing, and Cameron. I'm trying to think of any other divas from that era.
You're going to be saying a lot of young people's favorite wrestlers of all time when you do this.
Alicia Fox. But, it's better than the stuff that they were doing, but this really did reek of, if this had happened 10 years ago, we'd have had a hashtag movement of give divas a chance. Mm-hmm. Oh, I finished the McMahon documentary.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite bit, the bit that made me cackle with laughter, was when Paul Heyman said, when we went PG, that coincided with the women's revolution. I was like, did it, bollocks? I was like, hang on.
Give or take 10 years there, Paul.
I was going to say, we went PG, and then 10 years later, we reinvented women's wrestling.
Paul Heyman is such a good promo. Everyone has overlooked the fact he is a mouthpiece for WWE. He works for them.
I know.
And he's in the room helping McMahon with his interview.
That revelation is very funny.
There's not much really to say about all this women's stuff, apart from it's quite depressing and a big step backwards.
Huge. At least they were feuding with each other.
The main event, however, was really good once the commercial breaks ended. It was Sami Zayn versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight title. Got the full entrance stuff and the Samantha Irvine intros. It felt big time. Ad break. And then it comes back and you're like, oh, now Gunther's working over Sami. Ad break. And what was a half-hour chunk of time dedicated to this? We probably only got about 11 minutes of wrestling.
Yeah, because by the time, when Gunther made his entrance, it was half an hour of the show left. But by the time the ad breaks had finished and Sami had his entrance and they did the in-ring intros, there was only 20 minutes. And then within that 20 minutes, we had 2 more ad breaks.
Yeah, which were, because they're so early in the match, it does... Look, I know people get sniffy with Okada matches because it's the first 20 minutes don't mean anything and it's the last 10 minutes that matter. Well, go frickin' watch a TikTok video, you ignoramus.
There's a comment on my Toy Story 2 video that said, another half-hour video, which could have been done in 60 seconds. I'm like, go off to TikTok then. Yeah. I've got no time for you.
Those 20 minutes are sowing the seeds and the story points and whatever that make those last 10 minutes amazing. Sure, you can watch the last 10 minutes and you go, oh, move. But actually, it's sorry, I was hitting the table there. I know that's quite annoying for podcast listeners. You need the structural opening basis of the opening and the middle for the conclusion to be fulfilling.
The big final battle sequence in Avengers Endgame happens in the final third of the movie. So you could just skip ahead and watch that final third of the movie, but you probably will get more out of that final third if you watch the first 2. So
really is it did sap my enjoyment quite a lot of this match. However, the final third was so good that by the end of it, I didn't really mind. Sami started getting the better of Gunther. He reverses a powerbomb outside, hits an exploder into the barricade, then a haluva kick on Gunther. He could have won right there. That was a count-out victory, but the title doesn't change hands. So Sami gets Gunther back in the ring, hits another haluva kick. You're like, bloody hell. I thought that was the one that was getting reversed.
Uh-huh.
But then he goes for a third because, you cannot maim Gunther. You've got to kill him. And Gunther comes back with this huge lariat.
So good. Crowd were alive with this because then he hits the powerbomb and Sami kicks out. So Gunther,
it's a near fall.
It's a near fall. It's a 2 count. So, Gunther, well, I'll just do it again then. So he powerbombs him again and Sami kicks out at 1.
Gunther's selling of this was
so great.
Not the greatest near fall sell of all time, which is Triple H at versus the Undertaker, but it was in the same league.
Yeah, it was so great.
Because for a moment there, Gunther looks scared.
Gunther's because he doesn't. And this is what I mean when I was talking about how I wasn't massively into the build of this Gunther-Sami match. I think there's a really good story to be told in Gunther being worried that Sami has got his number. The story they went with instead is like, no, Gunther's just an arrogant champion who won't give a shot to Sami Zayn because he wears plaid shirts.
And his dad.
And his dad. Like, the more interesting version of this is, I am afraid that I don't know how to beat you. And so in this moment here where he's like, I don't know how to beat you. And I should be able to beat you because I am Gunther and I am the ring general and this ring is sacred and this mat is sacred and I should be able to beat you, but I don't know how. And then he locks in the sleeper and Sami is still escaping and Sami's reaching for the ropes and Gunther's got his face like, what do I have to do? So he just launches him back into the middle of the ring and just locks in the sleeper deeper. And Sami eventually passes out. And there is this almost sense of relief in Gunther. Like, he goes back to, yes, I'm the ring general. But you can see deep down inside, he's like, that was touch and go.
I loved it. I loved the final 7 minutes. I thought the kick out at 1 was freaking supreme.
Uh-huh.
And I loved how it went down. And it makes Gunther incredibly strong. He's vanquished that only blemish on his record. You can still build to a rubber match, of course. You can have Sami Gunther 3. And it really makes Gunther strong moving forward into the Champion of Champions Big Gaudy Belt match.
A bragging rights.
There is a part of me that is really quite sad that they didn't have Sami win via countout.
Oh, they did that in the Chad feud, though.
Yeah.
With Chad and Gunther.
Yeah, but if Sami always beats Gunther...
Yeah. But that
was just always this thing in his head.
But that was the story they did in the Chad feud, which is that Chad had Gunther's number because he was the only person to have beaten him, albeit by a technicality. But I get what you mean.
But that could be like a years-long thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gunther is unbeaten, apart from this one guy who just has his number.
Yeah, actually, I don't hate that at all. What I really like about this match, and actually going into it as well, is that last Monday, Gunther winning was a foregone conclusion. Like, Gunther is for sure winning. It's not the right time to be putting the belt on Sami. It sure isn't the right time to be taking the belt off of Gunther. And I think there's a huge credit to WWE in this. Because they did the Goldberg angle at Bad Blood, it genuinely did add on a element of intrigue to this match of, but what if Sami does win? But that's the magic of Sami. That's always the beauty. It's that Roman Reigns match at Elimination Chamber. Of course Roman is winning that match. It's Roman Cody at WrestleMania. Of course Roman is winning. But there's always a chance with Sami Zayn. And that's the beauty of Sami Zayn. And I think we had that in this match here. Is because, yeah, sure, like, we're going to do Gunther and Cody at Crown Jewel for the Gaudy belt. That makes sense. But there is always a chance that they could do that, and it's going to be Gunther and Goldberg at Crown Jewel, because that feels like a Saudi Prince Sweet 16.
Yeah,
that's the match I want. But can I have Yokozuna as well, please? So I thought that really did add a lot of drama into this, and then Sami's resiliency through the match and the kick out at 1 and things like that, I thought was really, really great. So ad breaks notwithstanding and kind of ruining the flow of the match a little bit, I thought the actual match, like, once the final third was excellent. I particularly enjoyed the bit when there's this great moment. I know we want to get into our closing thoughts here, but there's a moment when so he's trying to get him. Sami's trying to hit the Blue Thunder Bomb, but Gunther's too strong. So he lifts him up. Gunther fights out of it. Tries to lift him again. Gunther fights out of it. But then he goes for the sleeper, And Sami reverses he slips out of it, so Gunther grabs it again, but Sami then reverses the sleeper into the Blue Thunder Bomb. That was just like, there was some really, really great stuff within this. I love the match.
And afterwards, Cody Rhodes came out for a very brief stare down because 2 hours. We've
got to get out of here.
Overall, I gave this a 71%, which is the lowest of all these new Raws I've given. I thought there was pacing issues, commercials sort of sapped the enjoyment a lot. The Woods-Uso match was a real whiff, in my opinion, and the Breaker thing's a huge step back, and the women's division was really poorly booked. Why did I give it 71%?
Because it's how you leave them, folks. Yeah. And the final third of that Sami match was dead good.
There was a lot not to like on this show.
Yeah, and looking at these spoilers for next week's show, it sure does look missable.
So vote, we'll have the poll going up now for you to all have your votes. Before we get into the final chat gables, the best way to support us is go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk, where there is a whole exclusive bonus series of Monday Night War going on right now. Episode 5 went live yesterday.
Yes, which is now the second pay-per-view cycle complete.
Yeah, so that is... You're over a third of the way in, and it's all available to watch on demand right now, along with loads of other bonus videos. And you could also get a shout-out on this very show, like the Balding Brummy Brett Linforth,
Big Jiggy Josh Martin,
Abominable Michael Abbott,
King of the Conquest Stephen Mullenix,
the Machine Gun Alex Anderson,
Go Ace, the Ace of Spades Adrian Sentiel,
the Cleaner Kenny Shah,
the British Bulldog Philip Boy J. Smith Jr.,
the Roller Coaster Robert Coaster,
Yo Adrian, Rocky.
He can last Sean Fur longer than you in the ring.
And lastly, for this Hall of Fame class, on Tuesday, the 8th of October, 2024, Starbucks Stephen Costa.
So go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to get your own shout out and loads of bonus content. Last call for Chat Gables. Akiko Sanada says, this was a poorly paced commercial with some wrestling in between commercials. Hopefully Trips gets better at booking these 2-hour shows because, to be honest, he's done better with 3-hour Raws than these 2-hour shows. Follow up, the ending to that Pete Dunne versus Sheamus match reminded me of Raven losing to Jeff Jarrett, despite Jarrett being handcuffed and brutalized.
I think that was probably worth because, Jarrett's the heel.
Some guy says, I'm not a fan of the kick-out at one spot if Sami is going to lose anyway. A superhuman kick-out spot like that should be reserved for a big win. I'm not saying Sami should have won, but you shouldn't waste the kick-out on a guy who isn't winning.
I think, but it puts over the feud of the story between Sami and Gunther, the in-ring story between Sami and Gunther.
Yeah,
and that idea of I just don't know what it takes to beat you.
Yeah, I think that was really the next level of that match. And Zayn eventually losing doesn't undermine the kick out at one spot. Bailey says, I love that Xavier didn't shake his hand, considering how much respect the Usos have for the New Day. I kind of forgot about all that. From their rivalry, the Usos were a major reason story-wise for Kofi Mania, and it feels like a betrayal, sort of.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so into this Xavier Woods thing.
Kazoo says, the last time Raw was a 2-hour show, I was a sophomore in college. It's so weird to see people so accustomed to 3-hour Raws that they want it back. The current roster is too large for a 2-hour show, but you can't move them before the Netflix turn.
Yeah, and they don't, at least going by what Triple H said, they actually don't know how long the show is going to be on Netflix.
I really don't want 3-hour SmackDown and 3-hour Raw. Just a Thought says, how long before WWE run Dominic and Raquel dating behind Liv's back?
Yeah, it certainly could do, yeah.
Well, the place to do it would be behind Raquel's back, because that back's so damn big. Heiko says, vibe of the show was definitely, as Yoel said, smashed together, no breathing room. Looking ahead, I have missed traditional Survivor Series matches the last few years. I propose brand warfare, but with actual stakes. Winning brand gets the Rumble number 30 spot.
Yeah, again, I wonder if that is just nostalgia playing tricks on you there, that brand warfare actually meant something. Because brand warfare was one of the worst things about Survivor Series, and was for, a decade plus.
But if it had a stake, we always said that, getting the number 30 spot of the Rumble.
Yeah, if it had a stake, then maybe, but that's not what they were ever really going to do. But this doing brand warfare again kind of reeks of the old WWE. The belt's fairly hideous, but it's sort of in keeping with Saudi shows, I suppose. But yeah, I wish it was just a trophy.
Ket, the amount of WWE wrestlers who said they'll never do a Saudi show and ended up being on the show is funny. Kevin Owens last year and Daniel Bryan in the greatest Royal Rumble. Punk won't be any different. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
The difference on the Danielson one is the Danielson did that after, because Greatest Rumble was the first show. It was after that one, and then there was the Khashoggi stuff. That is when Danielson then said, I'm not going to do this. Same with Cena. I'm not going to do any of these.
I think Punk's pretty stubborn. And in this one, I respect the stubbornness. Tino RSA, I wish WWE could go back to the old pay-per-view model, 7 to 8 matches in 2 hours 45. Different matches with different lengths, some 6, some 20 minutes. Don't like too much the 5-match, 3 hour 30 model PLA.
Yeah, I didn't think, Bad Blood didn't feel like it needed to be 3.5 hours with the 5-match card that it was. But I've enjoyed it when it was a 5-match card and it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
I think it's much better there. Should also as well, like on Ket's point there, the reason why Owens is now going, he did it out of protest because Sami Zayn wasn't allowed in there, but now Sami Zayn is allowed in there. He is doing that. It's a Sami Zayn thing more than it was a moral thing, I guess. But it was moral.
Real Double J says, I feel for Ollie every week when he says Pure Fusion Collective, so I've dug out WWE's NXT name generator and given it a whirl. If you want some other faction names,
hit me with them.
Ace Wolf Faction.
Like it.
That's not too bad. Mad Anarchist Army.
I like that one less. Thinking about that first one, I don't think you want to call your faction.
Smoking Bullet Squad.
Oh, that's good.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Blue Tiger Posse.
Oh, hello. I like that one.
Wasn't that a late 80s All Japan faction? P.S. Still serious about sending money for a Megalopolis review, by the way. I was thinking about your chat over the weekend. I was thinking maybe me and Luke should do a cutscene review of something awful. And finally, for now, Temruza.
Hey,
I
it was back.
I think I've seen Temruza since we met him at the All In weekend. Sorry,
saw him at everything.
Yeah,
really. But yeah, he was here on the Dynamite show, sitting in. So it was lovely to hear back from him.
He was my wingman in the what's it called, the box park bit.
Yeah,
helping me not get too stressed out by the live show. Ollie, man, hope you're well. Haven't been able to catch you on a stream since I got back. Had a Guinness for you on the weekend. Miss you guys. Miss you too, Temruza. Luke, I'm still shocked you didn't know about the Cobain Hawk 90s Jesus. Please go watch /support Dan's YouTube.
So did you know about this? That the son of Tony Hawk and the daughter of Kurt Cobain had a kid recently?
No, I didn't.
Right? I didn't know about this. I found out through Tenruzza on Dynamite's review show last week.
Wow.
Yeah, that child's grandparents are Tony Hawk and Kurt Cobain. Also, I should add within this, everyone's like, their grandparents are Tony Hawk. Also, her grandmother is Courtney Love, who is no slouch when it comes to 90s iconness.
Darby Allin is jealous of that kid. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Let's get our poll results before we get out of here.
Oh, wow. For the first time ever, I think, Thumbs in the Middle has had the most votes. 52% Thumbs in the Middle, 38% Thumbs Up.
Wow.
That is hugely down.
That is a mid-show, then.
Yeah.
Interesting. Go over to Geology. There's the link in the video description below or the QR code on screen now. That's a great way to help support this. And thank you very much, Geology, for supporting us. And go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to get loads more bonus videos there. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke and DAD. Jam that Raw.